County Board of Commissioners Work Session on May 7th, 2024, at 4:00 p.m. We're gonna ask if you have your phones and silence your electronic devices, so it doesn't interrupt anything, and we're gonna go right on into new business. And the first thing we've got, it's a 2024-2025 benefit renewal discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, in front of your agenda packet, that is very little to read, but you got your prior year, which is the current, what we're currently paying. The $861.19 total cost is for the employee. $149.50 is what the employee pays. $711.69 is what the county pays per month. On your current year with the proposed anthem increases, the total cost goes to $1033.43 for them for a month, with $179.40 to the employee, $854.03 to the county. These are using the same percentages as the prior year. So that means the employee went up $29.90 a month. If they had a spouse, $73.45 a month, $58.77 for a child, and $116.11 for a family. That's what the renewal anthem quota that's from.
One coming up.
Yes, sir. The one we'll be hopefully voting on tomorrow. The long sheet that you have in front of you is the actual budget. This is broken down from the budget, and behind it is actually the reports from our system that matches. You have what was budgeted in your first column, year to date in April. Your May encumbrance is what we're getting ready to pay in the month of May. You got your June estimate, which will probably be roughly around your May because the new one starts in July. July 1st, all the way to October, I included the county paying $25,000 a month. That's the county paying completely the whole $295,000 increase. And we still come up to almost $250,000 in the budget of savings if the county took on the whole entire increase. I know there was concerns about, figure out what the increase would be and give that to an employee. That came out to about 17 cents for the individual. So if I gave everybody in the county 17 cents, the ones who don't have insurance make 17 cents extra an hour. And if we offset the pay increase with 17 cents an hour, the county is essentially paying for the insurance on its own anyway. So it's a wash. So I propose that the county, as a benefit to the employees for this year only, the county absorbs the extra excess costs on the increase of the premium. I'm on the other page of the Opta insurance. Go ahead, sir.
Can we turn the air conditioning down? Not as cold here. I'm here so
Sorry.
loud. Usually
Echoing a little bit.
It absorbs the sound, but it's just loud or low instead of. There we go. I know that helped limit too. Both of us like to hear exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and on the very end of that long page, you got your total FY25, 9 months at the October estimate. And then I even went $35,000 increase for 3 months, just in case it went higher than the premium this year, which we're hoping not to be. But at the budget on that one, it's only 1.73. I mean, we're talking $23,000 more. If I budgeted, we would have fund to pay for it if we had a substantial increase next year as well. So the money's already in there for the budget if the county was to absorb this one-time increase for employee benefits, just to help retain our employees, keep the insurance rates currently like they are, don't pass anything on to the employees. The county absorbs it.
So it's 25,000 for the next bill month?
To finish out the fiscal year. And then it'd be,
Say it'll be 25,000 per month through the rest of the budget.
yes, at the 9 months, that's at 1.245. And then the 480,000 is the 3 months, the July, August, September, to finish out the fiscal year with a $35,000 increase. Yes. But it would come out to the same budget amount that we have now, 1.7, because we're saving almost $250,000 right now. Vacancies, and not everybody's on the insurance.
But that's a long. Builders position.
The county's gonna absorb more than half.
think that look at the whole.
Yeah, and that 1.7 is the way Bill did it. He budgeted for every employee to have at least employee coverage. So that's why we came up to 1.7 is every employee, if they were insured, we were at 1.7 million, but we only have 109 employees on the insurance, or 81 individuals, but they some elect the spouse and individual.
Or higher. You can't look at it and say it's.
If we have more people, it'll be, I think, for a month, it is $1,000 for an employee. For a year, it's $12,401.16. So a little over $1,000 per employee the county would pay. Yes, correct.
But the budget allows us to have up to another, 201, 210 total insurances? 224.
So
So,
also the next item discussion.
right.
We got about 18 with the leftover money. We got about 18 individuals come on and we'll.
So if I understand what you're saying, and the way you explained it and finished out this year, then I agree with Brian that next year, we're looking at that, it was full staff. But aren't we looking just, since we're having to vote on this insurance tomorrow?
We're looking for
and
next year as well.
And your suggestion was instead of changing everybody's pay right now for insurance. But doesn't mean we can't look at when we do the budget at the end of this year or next year. Wouldn't we talk or work in them as far
Yes,
as
sir.
if the employees have to start putting in a little bit more per pay period at that time?
Yeah, we
So it's not like
can.
we're going to the next year knowing that we're gonna pay out.
No.
$1,000.
July 1st is when the insurance takes effect. So if the county has decided to absorb it for 3 months and then going into the budget after open enrollment, we'll know exactly what the new count is. So if it's, 20 or 30 more people, we can say, okay, for this, finish out this year, the county absorbed it. And then we're gonna raise it after that.
He's dead on. If we was to hire all those people,
Mhm.
I think if I was a gambling man, I bet you we ain't gonna fill all those positions up the rest of this year because the whole country is still trying to get help.
And they all have to choose insurance. We can hire them, but they cannot choose insurance and we wouldn't end up paying that $1,000 a month for that employee.
Right. It'd be a blessing if we can get more
Yes.
people, then we have to worry about
Yes.
how to pay it. Till we need them, but I just don't see us getting that many people between now and the rest of this year.
Yeah, and I don't know what the count is, how many we've lost and how many we've gained. I know the sheriff's office is taking a hit here lately because we see those come across. I'm sure Public Works has lost a couple employees. I don't know how many are being gained, but I do see the termination reports coming in as they come through payroll. And the only thing that, if they're out there for the buyout, if we offer that, the employee will be solely responsible for that additional cost. The county will pay nothing on the buy. That's just, if the employee wants it, they would have to pay the extra $140 a month. So that's just a employee, if they just want to buy the buyout and get a low deduction. One thing staff would recommend, we would implement the wellness program. It'll cost us $15,000 after the Anthem allotment. But we strongly encourage everyone during open enrollment, if the board of commissioners decide to eat this charge for the employees to take on, instead of employees taking on, and the board of commissioners county will pay for it, that we strongly encourage individuals to participate in the wellness program to help bring that dollar amount down. Because if not, if there's an increase next year, it will be passed on to the employee. We can't typically mandate or force anybody to do it. We can strongly encourage them to participate in the wellness program. If the board would choose to, invest $15,000 into the wellness program, because Anthem will pay the other $15,000.
Myself, I like the suggestion of absorbing it at this time. Because I'm afraid since we're so short staffed, we didn't figure out a way to accept the insurance, keep everybody insured, and not throw it on it right now, because that could be just enough to make several of them start making phone calls, looking around, see where else they can go to, because they wasn't expecting, start having more taken out of the pay this year.
Because out of the 106, you got 29 have spouse or family or child. So 29 employees, we're paying at least $50 or more a month right now. And that's, without a significant raise, that's a dent in the pocket.
Mhm.
Especially with the 5 currently on family. I mean, you're talking $116 a month increase if we stayed at the 20, and this is just raising employees 20%. Now we can modify it and change the percentage and up the employees, but you go too much, like you said, employees may decide, hey, I can go somewhere else for cheaper insurance, and
And then also.
insurance be the point for someone to leave.
Part of our work session today, whether we complete it today or move forward, we're also talking about the pay scale. So hopefully if we, it's all what the board agrees together, but if we absorb it for the right now, and then we get the pay scale thing worked out and everybody gets a little bit more, then we have to turn around when it renews and go, now we gotta ask for some of that back. That's where you gotta pay increase. At least they see we're trying,
Yeah.
Is there, and I do have in the pay scale discussion, what we have brought in excess of property taxes collected, it's around $300,000. So that's, if I budgeted the same last year, there's a $300,000 excess of funds right there. And it's only gonna grow more because of the houses that have been built coming January 1st. So I expect that number to go up on the budget on the revenue side. So, if we increase the insurance that the county pays, $100,000 and reevaluate it after open enrollment, or keep it the same because we're at $250,000 savings, and reevaluate it after open enrollment when we got the true numbers of how many people are enrolled. And then we can factor in over the next year, how many may actually opt in for insurance. We know the cost is a little over $1,000 a month per employee. Total vacancies, I do not. Yeah, she will give an update tomorrow on that. On the total, how many have left, how many vacancies, how many have hired, how many interviews and things like that. She usually gives that the first, she's been doing the last couple of board meetings. But I was racking my brain how to best suit and be fair for the insurance. If I gave everybody a 17-cent increase, like I said, it's essentially the county paying the insurance because we're just giving you more money to pay the insurance, and it's going to be over the 300,000 because the 90 people or so that is not on the insurance, they're going to get 17 cents. So it's going to be a $600,000-$700,000
for the numbers that
increase. So that's why I didn't go that route. That I know we discussed in last session. It just, to me, the math didn't add up. So I didn't want to present that because it would cost almost double, triple the amount of the increase in Anthem. And believe me, I spent numerous days trying to figure out the fairest way to do it because I can't just pick and choose. Okay, you got insurance, so you get a raise. You don't get insurance, you don't get a raise. To me, that's not fair across the board to any of the employees. But I'm happy to run the numbers however the board wants me to run the numbers. I can run them tonight and have them first thing in the morning so y'all can see what it looks like. If we decide to do a different split, I mean, we could raise the increase on the employee side, but, we offer it to the employees, but anything after that, the employees elect to have. The spouse, the child, or family. So that's where it starts to get more expensive. And we did, the last page was just a breakdown, and we would suggest, our staff recommends, raising the death benefit life insurance from 35 to 50,000. It actually is going to save us $150 a year. By actually getting those. So staff would recommend that we go to the 50,000 life insurance for employees. Long-term disability, we did have an option there for the board to consider paying that on employees' behalf, but I think over long-term disability and wellness, I would recommend the wellness program for 15,000 instead of long-term disability at this time, just to try to get everybody in better health, try to get our insurance costs down. Just trying to be proactive for it. We have a wellness committee. Hopefully no one have to go on long-term disability. Yes, ma'am. It's all employee elected.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Long-term and short-term, it's all employee, elected and they pay for it. County doesn't pay anything for it, short-term or long-term. County just pays the life insurance. And dental and vision, there was no change in the price this year. Yes, ma'am.
But we can select to move the long-term and short-term, but just not make the choice for the county to pay for the extra. But we still need to move from Anthem to Symetra.
Yes,
Okay.
staff does recommend moving from Anthem to Symetra on the long-term and short-term. It is
Mhm.
cheaper, on the long-term side. Short-term, it's a few dollars more, but Symetra is, who's handling the life insurance, moving up to 50,000, was able to get it to us at a $151 discount, than the 35,000. Okay.
We can pay for each.
Is each,
Yeah.
there's one charge for short-term, one charge
Mhm.
for long-term. And it's based off of your age, I believe. I think it's your age. I'm pretty sure it is.
That would be.
Yes, ma'am. Here's your salary and your age. You kind of, there's a different formula. It's like 0.005 or 0.05. There's a percentage or that you would pay based off your salary and age.
Thoughts, concerns, or questions, or
Well, we're not voting or anything today.
no, no.
Personally, for me, I would vote the county absorb them. This amount go up. So that we don't pass that on to the employees. So,
Mhm.
I'll
Yes.
clarify what I was saying, the question of mine is, we are looking at doing some type of grading system to increase the salary, which is to come to a conclusion of how much we do, and these increases will be based on their valuations and things like that too, so we really don't know what it's going to be with that amount that's going to increase in that either, it may come back as a surprise too, so kind of have to level it out at some point. We are a limited budget, and we're already getting X number toward employees is almost half the budget that we pay out for salaries and benefits. If we keep going up, the amount that we're gonna have to do actually work for the public is gonna keep going up. So we have to be mindful of.
exactly. This, yeah, as an incentive to not only, maintain employees, but then employees, if we can offer benefits,
Mhm.
and health insurance is so important.
And
In
two,
my opinion.
And two, it's a step in the right direction. You know, we've been, staff is, and folks have just worked really hard trying to get all the information to provide good options. And every one of the decisions came back to how can we improve it for the employees? We knew that we couldn't go in and put in a whole lot of pay raises, but we could improve the benefits. And this is just, it's a small step, but it is the first step in adding and improving the retention rate over here. So.
That's competing. Brings mind to me. You know, what we're presenting. It's for people. That's the ball, the water, this compete, to make sure that we do options available. And then stand and hopefully that will help if we implement that wellness program too.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, last year, we had several that asked not Saturday. Or whatever. Or maybe you have-
I'm one state and the education, the way it from state care. So
The insurance changes are very confusing.
Yeah.
Options that changes made this year. And I've never been in a situation that what we had, they changed. And then it was like an act of Congress to opt out. We haven't opted out yet, because we still don't know what the benefits are as far as now, analyses. And I know that sounds crazy, but all that stuff changes. So, like the kiss now. Something's possible.
Yep.
And just on a side note, ACCG that Tammy referred to, they did ask for more claim information and they did decline to quote us at this time.
That's another problem I have with ACCG. They tend to do that on an annual basis, refuse it, but the amounts that we pay out to ACCG every year is astronomical. If you add all of that up. And I think we need to start finding other sources to put our educational part into. It doesn't have to be through ACCG. And I don't agree with having to pay $100 and something thousand that we pay out each year or more than that to ACCG to cover certain things. But they always refuse our partnership when we're dealing with the insurance. They are a private entity. They have nothing to do with government.
Well, if there's nothing else to discuss on the first one there, we'll move right on to number 2. Next under new business is the pay scale discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, before I hand out these pay scales, we want to go into executive session to discuss a couple persons on
If there's
the
any,
department head.
if there's any particular personnel and so forth that we need to discuss, yeah, we'll get out the motion, go to executive session.
I've,
Discuss any certain particular ones like that and then come back, but not across the whole board.
yes, sir. We have just a group that the board may want to look at before we go into the major
So I have a motion to go into executive session. For the purpose of.
personnel.
Got a second, we got a motion, we got a second, got a second, all in favor, pick your hand. We're gonna go out here into executive session at 4:22. Discuss personnel, and then we'll come back.
Help you shut that system down.
Well, out of executive session, need a motion to go back. Taking an executive session, and now we're back in the executive session. Continue on with the discussion of pay scale discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, the first one in front of you, the Office of State Treasurer. That is our investment pool. Last month, we gained $37,000 in interest. So far this year, we have gained $212,709 in interest. Your second page shows our real property current year revenue coming in. Right now, we're 302,000, almost 250,000 over budget. So we have an excess revenue of over $300,000 on property taxes. So the raises were implemented. The tax is there to pay for them already. And I just expect that budget number of 8.1 to go up to probably around 9 million, maybe a lot higher than that, depending on the tax that's when it's ready. But just to show the interest on the investment pool, we're gaining 37. Another $1 million was just added. So this month we may gain over 40-something thousand dollars in interest. Almost 40. Oh, it should be over 40,000 with another $1 million in there. So the interest pool is doing pretty good. You can see the yield at 5.38816. So it's earned pretty good interest at the moment, which is good for us, but not so good for consumers when interest rates are the way they are. In front of you also, you have the pay scale at a 3% step increase. You have your grades 8 through 30, department heads 1 through 10, and steps. There's a 3% increase between steps. Throughout the pages, you have current rates, the job titles, full-time departments, the grade entry level, grade step, new rate, the differences, current salary, new salary, and the salary increase annually. So it's a lot of data to look at and go through. I did give the sheriff department, their starting rate was $21.50. I did bump them up to 22 because they are having a turnover at the moment. So if we don't go up to 22, I think the sheriff will probably move them up to 22, maybe 22 and a quarter or something. So just be proactive. I went in and bumped them up. Just about everybody in the fire department, the EMTs, they all moved up a little bit on the pay scale. Firefighter recruits and firefighters, they are already on this scale. That's why you don't see an increase in their pay. I talked with Chief Stevens and he's fine with that until they get the certification to go into paramedics, and they will get an increase. And this was just putting everyone on the scale. So you'll see a minimum, some people get a very little, some people get a substantial increase, and that's all until, staff recommendation would be the form, a committee like myself, the HR director, and Jared, get evaluations from the employee or from the department heads or elected officials. We use their December 31st, they got their January merit as one evaluation. We get a current evaluation, and then we move them on a scale that's appropriate. And as long as we stay within a budget approved by the board, Jared can make that decision with the advice of me and Valerie on where to place the employee.
So let me ask you something. When all this is in place, the evaluations you've done, are those evaluations scored at a 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Yes, sir. And we said it on the preliminary one, and I didn't have.
My question is, so if the max that we can do per step or per grade by the evaluation, if that's the maximum, then each evaluation, is that maximum going to require that 4? And then it's 75% if it's 3, 50% if it's a 2, and 25% if it's a 1?
I think the way we had it,
Are they gonna get that increase across the board no matter what the evaluation?
they would have to score 3 or 4, a 3 or 4 consecutively on 2 evaluations.
Give it this person.
Correct.
Or intentionally the same amount that we're giving this person doing a 4. And if it's a scale of 4, I think it should be 25, 50, 75, 100%. That's what it really should be, because a 1 and a 2, the 2 is doing a little bit more than the 1. Should they still get the same? And a 4 is doing a little bit more than the 3. Should they be the same?
Yeah, I think the way we preliminary came up with a package to move them from step to step was they had to score 3 or 4 on the successful evaluations. They had to have certifications, or training or schooling, something to justify moving up that step. It's just not every year you're guaranteed you're gonna move up that step. Commissioner Murphy.
One thing I'm trying to consider too, I've seen, evaluation methods that were linked to budgeting. And there were people going above and beyond, but because it was linked so hard with budgeting, you can only afford to give simply positive evaluation. So the money ended up, you're talking the evaluation a little bit more than the performance. So, we might have to take a little bit look at performance and, figure out who have the most probably more.
That's why you see,
It's only fair across the board.
yeah, and we would have to set that criteria, what would constitute a step increase, Staff would recommend we implement this and then don't give any steps until next budget year so it can be budgeted. And during that time frame, we can tighten those controls on how do you move from step to step. Because what we may require here in admin, a lateral move, step to step, may not work in an elected official's office. What works in the elected official office is not going to work at E911. So they'll have to come up with their own standard operating procedures on what requires them to move from step to step. And some people, they may max out at a C or D depending on their job description and their duties. They may not go out except for tenure. That's when they go out further.
I mean, we can always make recommendations to those constitutional officers, but we have no say or right
Correct.
except on what they request for budget, and then it's up to them as to how they pay their
Yes.
fees. So we have to look at that too, it's what we're considering really accurate. Was somewhere close to where it may be, we don't know.
And all this was compiled with the recommendations and sitting down with the elected officials and department heads.
Because, and I would use, EMS as an example, but your job description, if you're basically, you've got certain, skill level sets and training or education that's required if you say so. But if you're on the other end and you're in advanced, whatever, that requires some training, like more. But your job description might be similar, but it's not the same. So your job description is going to be typical to your pay scale. Then until you have each job, not on the pay scale, slash job description, and then your goals and objectives. And each person should be running on what those are. They should be uniform possible. Other ideas. You have to meet, especially, unless we've done away with it, which can be part of, remember the term is used, but basically you're not discriminating. In other words, if you're required in your job to be improved, it's tied into that job performance or whatever, then it's something across the board. Does that make
Yes, ma'am.
sense? And with that, all of that then goes back into the pay scale. It goes back into that level of training, level of needs for that job. And it's going to be uniform, possibly. In other words, you can't create a job because you like somebody and they can do X, Y, and Z. And this other person coming in really don't like, but they're going to be required to do what's that.
Yes, ma'am. And we do have job descriptions on all employees.
And they're they will be their job descriptions.
And they have, we have job descriptions for almost every employee in the county. I think the only exception is E911. They had to kind of tweak a couple of theirs depending on their position ranks of captain and sergeant. But overall, we have about 95% of the employees' job descriptions on file in HR.
And I wanted to, if a lot of this pay scale could be tied to at what level of training that that's achieved. Maybe I'm missing something, but.
It goes into it. And I was getting with, and I've discussed that with Chief Stevens.
Gotta do some, open to your website. But I reference, you gotta see that state. Got wage rate. You have rights. And you go to certified. So you are some, you do plan hours based on what is already in place. With a federal schedule. Is what I mean. I don't know.
Is what I'm going to say, and I've had a couple of counties send us the pay scale through the listserv, and the majority is probably about 5 of them. 3 out of 5, they're on one pay scale. One of them had EMS and fire on a different pay scale, and one had sheriff on a different pay scale. But everybody else continued on the one pay scale. They didn't have multiple ones, but I do get what you're saying on that one. And Commissioner Conlon, with the fire department, I did speak with Chief Stevens in January when we gave the initial raises. The recruit firefighters making $9.50, we bumped them up to $11 an hour. So they were already kind of pushed towards this schedule on an entry level. And Chief Stevens said he's had plenty of recruits coming in at $11. It's the EMT, intermediate A and the B that he's having problems keeping, and that's where he wants to focus, giving those raises out. But his recruits and his firefighters, $11, $12, $13. He said that is perfectly good with him, and he's got plenty of applicants for those positions that are working towards their certifications. That's what his main focus is on when they get the certification, is look at their pay and adjust that to compete, almost like the sheriffs. I mean, they can't compete with Coweta and Fayetteville. Yeah, and he did mention that to me too, and there's a way that he can calculate it and we can see how that comes out to be at a 40 or 80. He knows more of the FLSA laws on fire than what I do. And he said there's a formula that they can do to break it down to an 80-hour employee and they get overtime. I haven't asked him to do that because firefighters typically are 106 in a pay period. Typically, part-time gets more coming in the door because we don't give them insurance. They're not included in here, but like I said, this is just looking at the full-time, the part-time, we can adjust and move them up depending on their scale and their skills and give them the raise that, when the department heads sit down and go through it, and we can recommend this is what they stay at. Because the total on this one for an hourly employee is $47,755 a year. And that, like I said, that's not every single full-time employee, but that's the majority of the employees getting something. If it's $100, just something to get them on this scale so we have something to follow and go through.
Let me ask you, some of these that are going to staying on the grade, whatever the grade is, but it's showing that they're a step of H already.
A state H. That was to get them on the pay scale. Now, that may not be their actual grade when we get the reviews and go through it. That was to get them on the closest ones to their dollar amount now.
Right, saying if they are age, are we gonna start them a 10-year process on that age?
No, eventually, if they're like say if they're H at like say a 20 H at 2217, they actually may come down to a 23 or 24, depending on what job description they fall into. So the final grade is not going to be what they are now. This is just getting their salary on this grade scale system.
We're going to try to start it until
So we'll fine tune it, get them on the left-hand column and try to organize fire is here, public safety is in this range, Public works are in this range.
I was just trying to figure out if we are gonna do it for 10 years, 83 vetting. We have some that are currently on our page now, you're gonna have to adjust that, or those people aren't gonna be on the same scale, if so, that's gonna have to be a total different figure for them.
And I can,
I mean, does that make
See,
sense?
it does.
See 10 years for those people on what we're actually.
the original one was was a 4.1 and went out 10 years and doubled their salary at the end of, when they hit their 10th year. I think on the 3 scale, you have to go out to a 14, 15 year and it would double their salary. So I can bring it out to where it doubles the salary. That was Theron's goal when he first originally created this, to say, when you get to the last step, your salary be 1.5 times than what it was when you came in. But you want to always move vertically. You could move horizontally down. You know, if someone got a certificate or certification and they're at 19C, they get that certification, they can go to 21B.
Difference between step C and step.
It's 3% each step.
Right here it says equipment operator 2, full-time, grade 23, $22.09 an hour. Then over here it says equipment operator 2, crew leader, grade 23 is less than now. He's a leader, how come he's less than? If he's actually a crew leader.
I noticed that when I went through, and that we would have to get with the department head and sit down and discuss, hey, we noticed this salary is wrong.
We brought it up and mentioned it, and I got with Bill, and then Valerie even called me and she said, we're doing they wants the work description, job description. We're supposed to have equipment operator 1, 2, and a 3. Where's the 3?
3, I haven't got any paperwork saying we approved a 3.
Valerie said she was finalizing, she wanted to get it to you.
I haven't got anything on operator 3. I only think it's been voted on to approve that position.
No.
Yeah, it has to be voted on.
We talked about it, we had. Can't have. Actually voted.
So they'll bring it to us when we're doing the rest of it. So what the meeting Emmett and I had, so you understand what I'm talking about, 1, 2, and 3. I was explaining to them, we need some good motivator operators. And they need to be making $22, $25 an hour, or they're gonna go somewhere else. So Bill was going to change operator to make some modifications to it, but basically what it's supposed to work out to be is your equipment operator 1 would be somebody that just does bush hog, mowing, weed eaters, basic equipment stuff. Equipment operator 2 would be somebody that does skid steers and the mowers and weeders and can run a mini X or dig a trench, dig a hole, put a pipe in,
Yes, sir.
and so forth. And then the third one would be somebody that can get on the motor grader, do everything we have here, they're called to do, have a CDL license, can get the dump truck and do it all. That person should be making $23, $25 an hour.
Is there, and once that position is created, we can put them on.
So
here
we'll
on the
check
schedule.
the.
Yes.
See, I feel like it's gonna be.
Even if there are adjustments made. So. That would have to come to us, but Valerie has to, I haven't seen the job description, have a grade. So she needs to place that D through whatever grade of the job description, so that it fits within the parameters.
Correct.
It is, but she can't do that.
Until we adopt this.
Job description. Does have to come.
She would bring that to us at a
Yes.
later time. Okay.
That's why I haven't seen
Back to
it.
the question then is, why would a crew leader be making less money than?
And this was, the point of this whole study was to find these kind of discrepancies in here where a crew leader is not making enough, where a regular operator is making, the crew leader should be making more.
And when you get those job descriptions graded, you may have the change that you see that one is a B and one is a G in the grade, and then you go from there.
Yes, correct. That's why we're just trying to get on something on here, and like each job description will have a grade and a beginning grade, at least, operator 3. If we have that one come in and you want them to start at $22 an hour, be a grade 30. So Valerie would know right off the bat, if you apply for operator 3, if it's graded, beginning pay is $22 an hour.
Okay.
And I can always bring it down further whatever the board, if we want to make it 23, 24, we can create a 31, 32, 33 step. But the goal is, once everything's finalized, every position in the county will have a starting grade. So that way Valerie wouldn't have to have the question like me when I did my interview, what's the starting pay? I don't know. I need to know if it's worth my time coming up here. Can you tell me, can you go find out what the starting pay is? So she came back and told me, and she could have just came on here and said, okay, this is what it is, without going to have to go ask. And you wait 3 hours for her to come back and say, hey, this is what we can offer you. Would you like to do the interview?
But we're also, in order to be able to hire and retain certain individuals at certain levels that apply for positions we have open, we're gonna have to look at the grade in which that job description is graded, but we're also gonna have to look at what that person is bringing to the table as well as years of experience, because it may take them where we go in and say, oh yeah, you're at a grade 30 and level A 2266, but hell, you may be over here at a 2957 in a J. So we've got to look at that experience. We've got to come up with something that differentiates that too. So we don't have somebody quoting somebody like you on the phone. But it really should be coming from Jared to determine this is the experience and this is where we're at now. We really have to get it stuff.
Yeah, because the current process now, I mean, they just hired a new motor grader, I believe, at Public Works. They asked me what they could pay. I have to run it through the budget and make sure they can afford it. And then I give my recommendation to Jared, and Jared says yes or no.
Well, the main reason.
And then it comes to the department head. I gave him one number. The department head said, no, I want to bring him in at this. So that way, when he gets the certification, we can move him up to this. But I'm like, okay, you've been budgeted and approved for this amount. If you want to bring him in at 1950 and then pay him 21 when he gets the certs, that's totally in your realm because you're approved for 21.
The main reason I was focusing personally myself on the third operator position is we need motivators, and they're going to have a good pay. So that would justify an operator 2 when he finds out operator 3 is up to 23.50 an hour. Now he's still at 19 whatever, and he's bad and pissed off. They can go to him and go, look, just as soon as you run that motivator and go get your CDL license,
You can be there too.
2 or 3. You know, it just keeps the argument down. It justifies why that man's making that kind of money now, but I'm sitting over here, no. Well, because you cannot run every piece of equipment we have in this county if you're called upon. So get on them, learn them, get qualified, get certified, get your CDL license, and then you can make more money. And then we'll have better staff in public works.
Yes, sir. And I can tell you that we have approved 6 individuals to do motor grader training, 1 and 2, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just sent that to Barry the other day.
They are coming on site and training 6 individuals how to operate a motor grader. So we did get that, and they will be here, I think, in
Is that the
July.
one through CAT?
For Yancey, yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, Hanson. Okay, good. They said the guys that took it over in Pike County has been running for years, learned things that day they didn't even know. So it must be good.
We actually had 6 individuals, I think 5, and then 1 training that's going to learn it. It was $750 to send them up there to their training, but Yancey came back and said, in the real world, it's better to work on your equipment and your environment. So we decided to bring Yancey here to do the training. So they would get training here for 3 days, I believe, to operate a motor grader. So we should have qualified operators to run those motor graders once this training is done.
That's one of our worst roads. So when they leave you, make sure that don't trade out here in the parking lot. That's public works.
They'll be on the right dirt road somewhere,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Let's
Yeah,
take
we
advantage
have a
of the
list.
guys just trying to show them how to work it.
We're trying to be proactive about it because it came across my desk and I asked that question, do we have 6? Because if we don't have 6, let's send them up there. If we have 6, let's go ahead and move forward with them and get them trained and get them on a motor grader because, the dirt roads are an issue and we have, once we get this 4th one repaired, we'll have 4 motor graders and we'll have the staff to adequately run. Hopefully all 4 motor graders consistently and these dirt roads will be in better shape.
That would be the only way we get these roads off. We can have this great.
Mhm.
That and get sidetracked with trying to get the equipment here that they need to get the tree limbs and everything cut back. Like
Yes.
the most part, a lot of our roads around here are getting so overgrown. I'm getting phone calls, motorhomes and trucks and cars that are getting scratched and damaged. And they have the right to blame. So hopefully we can focus on this and
And on that, job description, by the way, the heavy equipment operator 3, Valerie is only for, Mr. Billy to help us with the public works job descriptions. I'll double check with them and see if they could take the invest. You'll see. Pretty good.
About the job description.
I think the job description out there, I,
Met me when I was getting ready to leave the other day, and she came out and she had all this stuff and it was all highlighted yellow, so she's working on it. She goes, I got with Bill, we're gonna change this, change that, and this, and that. So they're all working on it now.
I think it's ready, it's just ready to go in executive session and vote on it. I think tomorrow, it may be ready for y'all to vote on it.
That's fine. She was gonna bring it to us, like Brian said, we get vote on it, and then we've got a new position.
Yeah, and we can alter it and decide what grade to put them on. It'd be executive session, for personnel.
And I'm still like, I mean, even though the chief said, I don't need it right there, I still think entry money come in, it could go up another $1 per firefighter because we're not full. And that might help attract more to us.
And I can run those
Then
numbers,
they want to stay with us and get up to that.
and as I can make those increases if the board wants me to run it through there.
What has been that was what initiated this conversation a year ago, with the inability to get qualified or basically anybody into the training program. Fire, EMT, and public work, those were the things that we were most concerned with, and get some severely understaffed. As we started this conversation. We need to focus the efforts around, to some of their points, and what is the going rate for those jobs? What are, and I know in the beginning, we did some analysis to what other counties pay.
Yeah, the last time we did was in January, we raised them to 11 and 12, $13 based off of back in January.
Focus on that. If
20 to 25%
Yeah.
more.
In the 20s for the paramedics, EMT.
North.
Entry level, I have to get with Chief Stevens to find out if we're competitive. He said he's getting a lot of recruits in at $11. He's got his hands full with recruits coming in at $11 and the firefighters at 12. It's pushing them to get their certification to get them more.
what do you mean by that? It's pushing.
He's encouraging them to get their certifications. So if you get your certification, you get $2 more. And I think he's got several in school now working on their certification because they realize once I get my certification, I move up to $14 or $14, $15. 13 or 14, I believe. Then he has a whole schedule that he created for it. And that's where he's losing people is once they get the certification for $13, they can go to Coweta where they're paying $17, $18.
We're not gonna match those
Yeah.
guys anyway.
And we
That's why
can't.
We were gonna work on some kind of incentive program that once they get their certification, that they stay here for the next 2 years or whatever. Because that's what we're losing. They get their certification and then they sit around. My buddy from Fayette calls and says, hey, this position, they're hiring over here and you're certified. Come on. And they're gone.
That's, I thought we voted on. We're gonna vote on that.
Yeah.
I think there's something in place that they have to work for 2 years.
I remember that's why I didn't vote.
We did have a session around the quarter minutes to see, but we voted on it. The county's paying for that certification. And they get an increase due to that completion. And they have to serve the county for the X amount of time.
But I think in most of the cases, the employees actually paying for the certification themselves. And then they can just, once they get certified, we're paying for the schooling, or they're paying for the schooling, but we're paying them hourly wage, and then they're just jumping ship once they get a certification. So there's other things we can do on the back end to kind of help offset what other counties are doing. We may not be able to do it on the front end, but we can do it with benefits and other incentives on the back end of it. We just have to have another work session later on about the back end, what we can do for employee benefits.
Well, wait a minute. In fact, that kind of, my dad before was going to be holding this long, five times, if you don't have some sign set. It's covered, sorry. But then, they come in the fire district tax. That pretty much works all right into the So your number of volunteers and the criteria should be all set for the certificate. Especially in five.
It's hard to serve that.
Well, if it's a community-based activity, and this is where we work for so long. From 84 until like 2017. Well, 17 is when we started being implemented. But the problem is that I know in other communities now, it's still hard to maintain that volunteers. You get some community, but they're not going to stay with us in one community. I mean, it's not just there.
The one who started talking together.
They may not have a paid fire department, but we have they're still on that, well, the community-based stuff. And that was a huge selling point to the people for their community.
But you can still have volunteer with them.
Yes.
There are also, some like companies, there are paid volunteers that, are paid. Are not really.
Right,
So far.
right.
Which is.
But the problem that you run into with the city of Greenville maintained a fire department separate from the county until a few years ago, and then they has to turn everything on to the county or whatever, because their volunteers, when they would go out, they would get $5 a call or something like that or whatever. But the cost of workers' comp and the insurance that the city, the municipality is having to pay to maintain that fire status. Although, you know, the main section is like here, it was better for the municipality to turn it over to the county.
That's it.
than-
You know, when you get your taxes, but it says fine, just,
But that's for the county.
I'm sure the city, but really.
No, I'm a city resident, no, well, what I pay is, we pay your county, your city, your fire, your education, and, you got like five titles or whatever, you're paying taxes on. But that fire district tax and that fire tax and whatever is a 900%, that's unique just for him. Those, no, the city municipality taxes are based on, the property,
So I just know that
correct.
and so.
They have their own fire deposit, paid fire department.
They never do away with that fire department. And the county has to start serving that just. You know, they don't have to pay any money to get served. So I'm saying it's true, it's some type of compensation.
That's what again, then what did our county firefighters do?
Correct.
Greenville's never had a paid fire department, it's always volunteer. So
Understand?
Manchester having a paid fire department chose not to.
I understand that,
But they still.
but we never had to
You
pay.
got on your taxes, fire, she's got a fire, she pays money for fire on her taxes to the city of Greenville, I'm sure that.
You have to pay it to the city.
Yes, sir, county.
With the amount of that brought up, when you look into it, to stop and think, you just said they never had a paid fire department. The county never had a paid fire department either. So now that we have one, why are all the citizens in the county paying fire tax to have that? But the firefighters will go to the city of Greenville and put those houses out and they're not paying fire tax. But there's something not adding.
I understand what you're saying, okay. If I can.
You just said you don't pay a fire tax, you live in the city.
She
Yeah.
paid fire.
Yeah, she does.
You don't.
No, I don't pay it to the city.
You get
Pay it to the county.
Oh, you get a bill.
I get a bill from the
Yes.
county.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Manchester.
Yes.
Does not pay the fire district, the fire department.
Yeah,
He does a pipe.
yeah, she does, to the county.
Now, when you did ask the one question, you said, so you pay a fire,
I said there's a fire bond, tax, fire.
and you pay,
Tax on your tax bill.
well, you said to the city, and she said, no, she don't pay to the city, she pays to the county. So the city is covering and taking care, of it. Good.
Yes, sir.
And see, when people, a couple of years ago, asked the county to collect their taxes. They pay a percentage to the county to collect their taxes. I get one bill. I get one bill, and the city of Greenville is a line. The county is a line. The school tax is a line item. Fire tax is a line item. And the fire district bond or whatever is a line item.
So you got the same bill I got, except you just have the city of Greenville. It's not the water and sewer. So
And then the county will give the city of Greenville whatever share.
Yes, it's based off off the IGA. Yeah, that's correct.
From the state, my city was twice what the county.
Yeah, if you live in a city, you get city tax and then you get county taxes as well. Because when I own property in the city, I got the city tax bill and then I got my county tax bill. My county paid strictly for the county and my city taxes were strictly for city, and mine wasn't like Commissioner Plants, it's all in one. I actually got one from the city, one from the county.
Well, the county has agreements now with different.
And I think that's why they're on one, because they collected for
Okay, well,
municipalities.
good.
But back to
Paying the fire tax.
the pay scale, commissioners,
We all-
if you went up $1 on the fire, every dollar you go up is gonna be $3,264 a year. Just get with Chief Stevens per employee, because that's the built-in overtime plus the 106 comes out to 3,264 hours a year they work. So your recruit firefighter right now at $11, we're making $35,904. If you gave them $1, they'll be making $39,168.
And the next step up from them, once they're certified, what do they make?
The EMT, let's see, recruit, a firefighter is making $12. A firefighter EMTB is $14.33. Just EMTB is $13.51 on the scale.
So to come in as a recruit, I make $11 certified firefighter.
Yes,
As a firefighter, I can get my EMT certification to go to 14.
correct. And that's where Chief Stevens kind of wants to look at the scale and say, okay, they need to go up to this instead of, I'm losing them when they get the certification at $14. I really need to bring them in at $15.
That's what I was thinking. He's comfortable with $11 is keeping. Maybe look at the difference.
It's when they get their certifications when they're leaving, and that's where he wants to focus on. But as if this was just putting them on a pay scale, just put them on the scale, and then we would have another discussion. I don't think you would hear Commissioner Worsley that we would set the parameters, look at a December evaluation, have them do another evaluation. They would have to get a 3 or 4 before they'd be considered to move up a step. But we would get the department head, and recommendation would be myself, Valerie, and Jared. We would recommend to Jared and what the pay should be with the department head. And if Jared agreed, that's where we would move them to. And they would move on a step in this grade, depending on the scale. This was adoption. We would just need to know if the board decided to adopt this scale and put them on there, we would just need to know within a dollar amount, how much can we lately give to the employees.
To me, it leaves too much ambiguity among 4 people. And what the employee needs is a clear path of I achieve X equals X, achieve Y equals Y. Not, I can achieve X, 4 people can decide what that is.
No, it'd be the department head would decide how they move up each step. The 4 people would just be putting them on the initial step, because right now they're just placed based on their salary. So someone may be a 10B, which really they need to be a 12C. We wouldn't know that until we talked with the department heads, looked over their job descriptions and say, hey, we notice his salary is, $12.73. Is that fair and comparable to other areas? Or do you think they need to move up a little more? Then we can justify the scale if we adopted the scale. But without a scale, we have nothing to go forward and move forward with. It's just us throwing numbers out there.
So we can talk about this every 2 weeks or once a month. So the total number of increase well within our budget this year and the interest we're earning covers either or.
Great. And you weren't here for that part, but
I'm in for the last, so. That increase is it to get to the initial new rate, we're covered under the budget this year.
with investment funds, we will be.
We covered, if everyone went to the full extent of it,
Yes, sir.
we're covered. If we took everybody to a J in their current grade, we have the funds to cover that this fiscal year.
Right now in the investment pool, we have $212,000 in interest. On that other page, on excess revenue coming in for property taxes, we have $300,000. So we're already offset.
Okay, but when your explanations previously, you gave us a number, 220, I think it was, somewhere in that range, what,
That was before, that was the last increase on the tax revenue. Now it's up to 300,000 excess revenue.
you gave us a number of the impact of the increase, total increase of salaries.
And we did everyone across the board.
We have the money, for argument, I know that. Is that just getting into the entry step level, or is that if we went to a J, you have that?
On that very first one that you're referring to, when we had the, like, if we, ideally, if that's where we placed everybody, we had the funds to cover it and the funds to pay for it going into the new budget year. We do on this one as well. Because the tax revenue is already over 300,000 in budgeted. And we can't go no more than 200,000 in investment pool right now because that's all we have.
That investment pool that you keep talking about is money that we haven't spent on road projects and so forth. Right?
This is just general fund that can be used for operating and maintenance of the general fund only. This is not taxpayer. This is investment off of investing the fund balance of the counties.
All right. I'd like to go back to the department heads. Started to discuss that in the executive session. I said, no, I'll wait to come out. But all right, I'm voicing my opinion right here. I don't know what the board opinion. If we was iron this out and we bring it for our regular session meeting and we're gonna vote on it, initiate and so forth. I personally, and I talked to some department heads, I cannot see some of these department heads getting a large increase at this time when they're not even 50% staff. You understand what I'm saying? If you got a department that has 40 employees, and he's only got 20 in there, he's managing. Where does he deserve a large increase before taking that money and hiring people? I look at this way here. Why does the chief need so much money if he ain't got enough Indians to build a tribe?
And I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying?
I get your point.
And it goes, that's what I said, what I'm getting at is, if you had a restaurant, you just started out.
He said it wrong, but he's right.
That's,
that?
it's,
His workload is half as much because he's not managing a full staff.
Right.
no.
What I'm getting at, yeah, if you're any business, you got a restaurant just started out, you're not getting that many customers and you only got 3 or 4 employees. And all of a sudden, about 2 years later, it's like a Chick-fil-A. You got 2 people out there in the line outside, and you got 42 employees. And I mean, the guy's making a profit off of it. This man deserves to come in here and go, hey, boss, I need to be paid more. I'm getting paid the same thing I got paid back when we started. And look what we're doing. By God, he needs more. All I'm saying, I'm not disrespecting any department head in this county. And I even try to reach out to them and they know where I'm standing at. I appreciate what they're doing. Even you sitting there, and you sitting there. None of y'all are any better than the rest of the department heads. What all I'm getting at is you can't have the Indians out here getting $1 raise and then find out the department heads are all getting this larger amount of money raised. But yet they can't even get enough help in there to fight a fire or get a road straightened out or replace a culvert pipe, because we ain't got the employees. So it's kind of like he said, it's not that he's not doing his job as department head. He's not having to oversee as much. You know, like take Barry, for example. If we have full staff out there, man, him and Bill would be running all over this county every day, because that crew out here had a problem, that crew's got a problem. And the guy had put in some mental thought, some hours and some hustle. But we only got two crews or three crews, and they're down there fixing potholes down on such and such road. It's not the same.
In that department, we were told they are full now. We're only missing 3 positions.
Public Works.
And another way to say it's all,
Different conversation.
you know, this, another way to say it is, the department is, you know, still the full demand. That is challenging. But, you know, I recognize that it's part of there is to build a team first. Before you
I mean, I don't know how it could be worded, even if it was to where we got all this pay increase, like Emmett's talking about, bump that one up, but we got the money to cover it. And when we go to vote on it, even if we said we're voting, and here's the department head's increased salary, but that won't take place until certain number of staff, or at least till 6 months from now. In other words, not immediately, because I'm telling you,
But there's something to be said there on the other side of that argument that I'm sure you're going to hear from somebody, especially if they're watching, they're going to read it.
Yeah.
Is that when you are short-staffed, you are working harder than you are when you're full-staffed. Now, there are things we can do to reward the ones that are performing outside of this on a regular basis. And if you are short-staffed and your department is performing and servicing at a good level above where you're staffed at, then absolutely you deserve it. If you're understaffed and you're performing like you're understaffed, and we just keep hearing about how understaffed you are, then you don't need anything. That's where they come back to the performance thing. You know, you have some managers that do that, but that team it's crunched down, they work hard, they still get 80-90% of the work done, 50% of the people. We should evaluate that, take the time to pause and look and reward those people somehow. But that's not the case with every group.
No.
Because that group is working harder than they normally should. That doesn't mean it's happening across the board.
y'all set me straight. I'm just trying to say what's in my mind, how I'm looking at it. I'm not trying to knock anybody, say ain't nobody doing their job, until they all, I thank them all the time. I'm just trying to figure out.
I didn't say none of that to disagree with what
No,
you're
no,
saying.
I like what you said. You're right. It's an individual basis too.
Yeah.
You know,
There's going to be a spot here or there.
there may be a couple of departments that doesn't quite need it just yet. But yet they're gonna get mad because that department got it and they didn't. That's what I'm saying is when you start dealing with human,
You don't have to.
it's all
Yeah.
nature. It's all nature. I don't care. You can go there and see a guy that's outstanding and great. You got a CDL license to call him in, we're gonna give you $2 an hour. You are, we wish we had 20 more people like him. As soon as they find out he got $2 more an hour, oh my gosh, just get them. You know, just they're upset and mad and quit, and you know, so what did you get? So I'm just saying,
That's what we gotta be careful about. The increases are based on skill level and certification, like y'all were talking about, because that's what's gonna, still, are you happy about it? No, but if Gene gets a raise and I didn't, I'm a little upset, but I understand, okay, Gene's got the certification and he's now being rewarded for it, or he went and got it and I didn't. I'm not all of a sudden happy about it anymore, but I understand, and now I make a choice. I wanna go get that, I just sit where I'm at. People won't necessarily quit because of that.
that's the reason I
Well,
did
some of
2
that
to
stuff.
3.
But if we don't do that structure to it, and that's clearly visible and transparent, people are just, it looks then like you're doing favoritism. When it's not, but if you gotta give them that transparent view of, here's why you get what, and it's your path to get there also. If not, it just looks like you're picking and choosing. So we gotta get that part, I know y'all talking about that earlier, we gotta get that part done. Yeah.
This fall here, do that. If you run a praise, if we think that range of the fall to a certain level, I don't think you have to go all at the top. I think you have to do it. You know, go
if you go in, you're not with somebody, 12 hours, then you might have another guy that like 12 people, you might have to do from him on. Time to play, time to get
I'm focused on entry level too. That's what I'm getting. I'm focusing, make sure we got money
I'm
to
just
get.
saying, if you position it your level up, way about, you got some firefighter part-time, that's 11 people. It's gonna be a mess. Whatever we do, whenever we do it, people gonna be upset, and it's gonna be wrong.
It is, because when you look at the firefighters, it's the amount of hours they work times their salary is going to be equivalent to someone working in the office making $17.
I don't like that analogy.
And that's how some people may view it, just to put in that perspective. If firefighters making $39,000 because they work 3,000 something hours, they work more hours, that's understandable, they public safety, they gotta be on call. But when you break it out into 2080, that's equivalent to almost a $16, $17 hourly job at 2080. So it's,
I need to be careful with that. I mean, you won't tell me that I should be happy. I had to work 3,000 something hours to make 39,000.
that's where
They
the,
only gotta work 2080. That's an argument that's not gonna fly.
that's why I think that fire almost has to have its own separate scale.
But that's where we have to manage, the department heads have to manage, and we do it on the budgetary side of you, because at the end of the day, we only got this much money. And this is all we can afford. And we gotta decide how many firefighters at a competitive qualified rate can we get with this amount of money? Now, does that mean you need 50 of them, or you need 10 of them to be able to pay and be competitive? That mean we start settling in on the fact that what you're really making is, no, you're making what you're making. How many hours did I work divided by what I got paid? That's how much I made an hour. You do all the different math you want to do, it don't make sense.
I was a
You're
manager
just gonna
for
make
years
people
before I
mad.
started my business. I was stereo supervisor for Wendy's. I was a McDonald's. You know, we got salary. It looks good. But divide your hours into that, I'm making about $3.75 an hour. So I understand, but I agree with him. It may sound like, oh, they're making same as that person making $17 an hour. But that person sitting in the office, I'm not knocking them either. I'm just saying about fire. They get $17 an hour and they got air conditioning, they got heat, they go to lunch, they come back, they go home at night, they got the weekends off. They got the
And firefighter
holidays
doesn't,
off.
they have,
The
they say on call.
firefighter, depends on how his rotation is, and he's away from his family, he has to be certified. And the number one thing I look at with him, her, our military, is he risks his life every time he goes into a fire. That's me. I know they're getting them hours, but they're sleeping most of the night. Some nights they don't. Some nights they got one call after another, then a wreck over here. And then Emmy can tell you, and right now, they're not full staff. So we find out there's only one fire truck available that particular day. And there's only 2 firefighters, but they're over here in an ambulance and which we'll address all that on another day too, but they're not fully staffed and they don't have everything covered. We got fire stations and nobody.
I just don't want, I would just be afraid of penalizing the department heads for a position that we put them in. You know, if they're understaffed because the pay is underwhelming or the equipment is underwhelming, we've set that situation up. So we need to support the department heads in their hiring and in their staffing, don't we?
Did we understaff them?
I mean, if we're setting, we do, but if we're not paying the position enough to bring the staffing in and not supporting the department head in their journey, it's a.
That's what I'm
I
trying
can
to
see
get at.
some of what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't want to take full ownership of that.
Oh, no, absolutely
We
not.
recognize the
Sure.
need and the issue, doesn't mean that I'm taking full.
But we can't start them off in a hole either. That's all I'm saying.
I've been fighting since I came here a year ago, is to get firefighters, EMT, and public works people out there, get money up where we can get fully staffed and service the community where they're getting someone at the house in emergency in time, so we can get on our dirt road without sliding in the ditch. That's all my priority. I didn't say department heads don't deserve a raise.
Right.
You don't see department heads leaving here going to Cowee to another place. Now, they're already making good pay and they deserve a raise, but they're not struggling like the ones down here that are leaving us at an offer of 50 cents at the next county. They're gone.
I think that's a consensus, is that nobody on this board is thinking that every person here doesn't deserve something at some point. But the department heads agreed to perform a function at a given salary. They're not walking out the door and leaving, or even to our knowledge, threatening to leave at this time. They're coming begging for, give me more tools to get my job done. But our first focus would be, let's get them what they need to get the job done. Now let's go back and make them equitable in what we just did. I think it's better way to say it. But
Yeah, you're right.
they're not running from us and going somewhere else. They're not, upset and mad. It's kind of like putting the cart before the horse if we go that way. Let's get them what they need to do their job and then come back and say, now, we're gonna make you whole with what we just did and in the scheme.
That's kind of what the third page of the department head schedule is. That's just putting everybody on an entry level type deal. I mean, it may say entry level 75,000, but they're making 75,337.60. That's just put them on a grade. So when they do deserve a raise, you know what grade they're on. Now, there is a few people on here who are getting a small little increment on the third scale. That's just to put them in
I
line.
mean, it's all set and
Put 'em on
done,
scale.
salary, and y'all handle all that. We don't handle all that. We just focus on approving a pay scale. And we want to get it there for them. But I like the way you straightened all that out. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'd love to see Danny Stevens' chief come in here later on, and go, man, we appreciate what y'all did. I've got firefighters, I've got EMT guys, I've got this now. We have got a department right now that y'all should be proud of, and that's what we sit there and go, you deserve a nice big raise too, because you're handling all that and you're making it happen. Thanks for your dedication, thanks for your service. That's all I'm trying to say.
Is that, and that's why we instituted that increase from 950 to 11 back in January. Well, I think, does it need to go up? Yes, but how much does it need to be?
I think some of this conversation, in correct me if I'm wrong, but still in your mind when you're saying those increases, y'all have taken those out from the first forms we saw where there were some bigger numbers. And we're just putting department heads on the scale, and some of it's 20 cents, 30 cents, just to get them on the scale. They're not getting those big increases
That
that we
looked at
saw on the
before.
first.
Okay.
Correct.
But that's a different.
That went
We're
down.
looking at it now a little different.
You're looking at the third one, it's only a 16,000 increase for department heads. 10,000 of it is what you already approved for the county clerk and what goes to the administrator after his 90-day evaluation. It's
Yeah.
3/4 of the increase of the salaries on that one. I mean, it's almost on all three options. Over half of it at least it's already approved, set in stone, so to speak. Those increases are there.
I think majority of that concern has already been addressed in this new file that came out.
Correct. I've redacted that down.
That's where I allowed myself to get sidetracked a little bit there, because I was still focused on, we met, sat down, different
Yeah,
meetings.
That
See
kind of
those
went
numbers.
away.
Like I said, I'm not taking nothing from the department here. I just don't want someone over here jumping up 6,500 or 8,500 a year, bonus raise, and we still got it. We can't get enough shovel operators out there to scrape the street. That's all my purpose.
I think your highest one is 33,000, and like I said, 10,000, 11,000 of it has already been set in stone. The other two, we're getting two of the unload, the IT director and animal shelter director to get them up to scale where they need to be. The rest of them is just to get them on the scale.
Right. So,
I mean, you would classify me like almost a DH8, but I dropped myself to a DH7 to put me on the scale. So it'd be, because I'm not making what a DH8 is, I'm at a 7. They decided to move me up to an 8, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'll discuss my salary in open session. I do not care if it benefits the employees. Take my money and give it to the employees. That's how I feel about it. Look after the employees first. My staff has worked on this twice. I've done this one myself over the past 2 weeks. I didn't include them on it. I'm not expecting to get anything in return out of this. I'm looking out for the county and the employees themselves. So I'm running every single number you can.
You're also an employee, and you get to participate in the same benefits as everybody else. So it's not, you're not doing it for your personal gain, but it's just some process.
So what we need to know now, before we can move forward, is where those rankings, the structure of those steps at, right, from those department heads. and which departments we want to go after first. What we were kind of discussing before we went way around.
Yeah, like I said, which departments would you look at moving up? Or not moving until they get fully staffed? Cause right now there's,
Whichever one we have the most trouble getting, this is the most efficient at being full, but which one is the toughest to even get recruits into?
cause I think like Commissioner,
Both.
the Chairman King was saying, he talked to the department heads. All the department heads are gonna be, hey, look, let's get the county where we need to go.
I reached out,
And they probably all said the same
and I
thing.
said, look, I didn't say exactly what's going on, because I didn't say no numbers, and I said, you know, we're hoping to get y'all a pay scale for your staff and everybody up. We're working hard. Try to understand if it's not to your liking 100% for you personally as the head. Try to look at what we're doing below you to help get staff filled, help provide great quality service to the citizens, taxpayers of this county. And bear with us, and I promise you, you will see your rewards too. You know, but we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And they
And I
said, yeah. I
the
love
majority of
that
the
raise, but they
department heads are
both
willing to
agree
get that
with
up.
this. Well, you're right. We gotta have employees.
Yes.
And talking about like office staff. I'd rather be out on the road with a shovel and a motor grader or a skid steer than to do what this girl right here does all day long in it. So I'm not knocking any of the staff workers either. You know, they all have their job.
I think before we can implement anything, which we need to get something implemented, but we need to be able to pull the trigger in each department. It's in relatively quick succession, because once one area gets it, in other areas of the county, even if they don't even fall under our purview, we're gonna be all upset, where's mine? At every level of each department. So we're gonna have to have those conversations, and we gotta be prepared for it with the data, and here's what we're doing in the transparent plan and the progression. Because once the first person gets a raise, this entire county employee system is gonna be, where's mine? I mean, we went through this with the COVID thing where I work, and we were paying $12.40 an hour, and you couldn't get anybody because it was going on with COVID. So we went to $14 an hour. They got a little better, and 6 months later, we went to $17 an hour, just starting out coming in, looking in the door. But all of the maintenance guys, technical people that were making high 20s, low 30s, were upset.
Yeah.
I was this far ahead of everybody. I did all this extra work, getting it now, they're this much closer to me. I didn't get anything. And, you know, but in the market as it was, people were paying more to recruit maintenance people in those things too at the time. So we had to go back and do another adjustment, equitable adjustment to that group, just to get that to calm down. So we're gonna have to do it all, but we need to make sure it's clear and understood. And once we start, we can't stumble. We gotta go right through it, because it's going to be
And we had those discussions with every department head and elected officials that, hey, you may not get what you asked for. It may be lower, and then we have to come back and evaluate it back and forth. So they've already was informed of this well before we even brought to you the very first time.
See, what his company did, the same thing, why I keep focusing on our fighters, EMT, poll work guys. There's folks out here working in fast food, but they're part-time. They can go to fast food and get $17 an hour, flip the burger. They're not getting 401ks probably, they're not getting insurance. But, you know, your younger people that we need to hire that'll come here and make a career and grow. Those people today, all they look at is what they have in their pocket on Friday. They don't really focus on insurance. They don't focus on a career. They don't focus on a 401. They want to make sure they got enough to get minutes on their phone and go to Starbucks and hang out with their friends Friday night. And that's the world society we live in. And shake his head over me. I'm telling you, it's the truth. I hear it everywhere I go, and you know.
how much money I need to have fun Friday night.
That's it. So
I'm I'm looking over to see how many people are above or below $15.
What are we looking to do next? What's our next course of action?
Benefits.
Right, but I'm talking about with this program, we keep talking about these numbers and the data and starting and the moving. What's the next course of action for you to go do to bring new data back What do we need to do to get closer to that broken improvement?
Well, what they
We
were
had
hoping
to
was,
adopt a scale.
what they were hoping is, what he brought to us today, we look at it, talk about today, and then tomorrow we vote. But I don't know if we're ready to vote just yet.
We adopt the scale, what does that mean?
But by adopting a scale, that gives staff something to work towards and get the employees grade and step on.
Doesn't mean they pay automatically change.
Right. We would,
Where's the control mechanism in being able to do that?
with the evaluation from December, from January 1 merit, a new evaluation, and then sitting with the department head and going through the evaluation and process and seeing what the pay is comparable. And that's why we recommended, Jared, myself, Valerie, and the department head.
Well, it would all.
Evaluate
come to
everything.
Jared anyway, right?
Yes, Jared would be included in, but have me and Valerie give a recommendation along with the department head. Hey, this is what we run with. Before we finalize everything, we go through as a staff and say, okay, we're under the $200,000 and we're able to pay it based off the excess tax revenue. Now, I don't think we're gonna be nowhere near $200,000. I don't even
No, not-
think we're not gonna be nowhere near there.
not as far as the budget.
But, well, annually, I don't think we're gonna be over $200,000 annually with all the employees. But the first thing would be, we gotta have something to follow. And then I guess the board form a committee and say, okay, these are the people who are gonna be in charge, with Jared having the final say of where to put them on the scale.
Do we have evaluation forms?
Yes, and we have the job descriptions on everybody.
Already have job descriptions.
About 95%, we're waiting on just a few from E911. Probably 95, 98%. Yeah, there's just a few stragglers that we're waiting on the job description, but we do have them. And then once we go by scale and put them on there, then each job description will have a grade. Because then she could tell an employee, okay, this position pays at a grade 17, 1550. Now, if you got more experience, you can come out to an A or a B. Just something for HR to be able to sit there and, because right now HR can hire for positions, she doesn't know what to tell them, what to bring them in at. She has the slightest clue. She has to come to me and say, what can I hire an admin assistant at?
So that job description clearly calls out what the experience is to be in each grade.
Correct. Duties, responsibilities, lays everything out for each. Correct.
The job description will have to say grades.
Once we finalize it, we'll say deputy clerk is or if we did deputy clerk, we'll say deputy clerk is a grade 25. So Valerie would know, hey, she's applying for deputy, or he or she is applying for deputy clerk. They come in at 1950 an hour. Or if they got 3 or 4 years experience, there'll be a grade 25. You got more experience, you come in at 2069.
That's called out in the job description, that 0 to 5 years.
Job description.
5 to 10, whatever the numbers are.
But not exactly in the job description, it'll be in the application. If they got 5 years of clerk experience in another county, or 10 years experience.
10 years experience to you is worth 2 jumps in the system. 10 years experience to him may be worth 5 jumps in the system.
That's what we would have the 3 of us in the department head, or whoever the board decides to appoint, with Jared signing off.
Can we clarify?
The time. We can. The board can set the criteria that we would need to follow in order to go through it. Because right now, I don't think we came up from HR and finance was a performance evaluation done biannually, twice a year. You need at least a 3 or a 4 to move up a step. And these steps aren't guaranteed each year. You got to not only have a 3 or 4, but you got to do exceptionally well at your job. You got to go beyond, almost in a sense. It's not every year guaranteed. You're going to go from a step B to a C or C to a D. But we want to keep the 2.5% merit in there, just because this 3% is not always guaranteed that they're going to move up. We got to set that criteria. And once we form and adopt a schedule, we can do what we need to do as administration, get everybody on here, and where they need to be placed with the department heads and the elected officials, and get all the employees fairly compensated. Not competing with Coweta and Fayetteville, but enough compensated to where we can keep them here in Meriwether County and say, hey, don't leave just yet for 50 cents. We're working on something to get you something.
What I don't want to see happen is where now you've got, been using fire, you got a firefighter that's, got certified, they give them 14, and they can leave and go to Coweta for 17. And then now, Chief Stevens has got this and say, well, still within there, look, I'll move you to 17. I'm still within this step thing if you'll stay. Without having the certification we outlined to get there.
Yeah, he would still have to add a certification and Jared would have to prove off on it. Because every payroll change we get now has to have the department head signature and the county administrator's signature.
But I think there's two sides of that. One is that you need to have the ability to negotiate with employees that are leaving to be able to retain some talent. You should have some of the autonomy to be able to, I can do a little something if you get to compete off and keep somebody that's been here long.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you gotta protect the county from having a road manager in any department. It's just handing these out left and right, because somebody said, hey, Luke said he give me $20 to come over here, and then now Jared said he give me 22, and then, we gotta make sure we build our system that protects against it. Right?
But then that human nature thing I was talking about a while ago, two examples. One, if that took place, then this other guy comes in and goes, he was gonna leave and y'all getting this to stay. So if I go leave, you go give it to me, may not, he may not be the same caliber of employee, I don't know. And the other problem we have is, when y'all start doing these evaluations, and little Susie Joe comes in here and gets evaluated, and y'all gave her the raise, and another board in that department don't get a raise, but in their mind, they think they work just as hard and just as good as she is. They do like my job.
But that's the difference between private sector and government, is that in the private sector, we can do it. We can be, I can give him or her a little bit of money, but I don't want them to leave, and the next one gets wind comes along, and I'm willing to let you walk. Can't do that in government. It's got to be clearly defined what those qualifications are. So
And I've had
get that on paper.
departments reach out to me and say, hey, can I pay an employee this, or what should I offer them? Like, this pay scale is not adopted yet, so I can't tell you that based off of this, pay them however you've been doing. If it's 3%, 4%, 5%, whatever you've been doing, do what you've been doing, because nothing's been put in place.
So
We've had a couple come over in this pay period that was more than this step scale.
the reason I started down this path of these questions and conversations is that I think, I'm gonna say, I hope it's 400 feet. I think we're relatively close to being in some sort of agreement soon, maybe even tomorrow morning, kicking off the program. But I think we should not, and maybe do not want to as a group until we get some more clarity and transparency around what those steps are. Protect ourselves from those situations we've been discussing.
And
That makes sense.
It does, and that was my recommendation. If we implemented this scale, so y'all voted, said we're doing a 3% step scale, we would place the individuals on here, and then between now and next October, next budget, or next July, no one would get a step increase until then, so I can budget for the property.
I want to give you a scenario though, because you just said if they called me, I got this candidate, what can I pay them? You don't know because it's in the difference. How do you know?
They're basing off
experience
of, they're basing off of prior positions and what they made in the system.
compared to.
Like a
Let's say so.
prior administrative assistant may have been making 17.
No, I'm not saying what we do today. I'm saying if we adopt this, you can't give them this right now because it's not approved. I can't say this range, depending on their experience. So we approve this in the morning. You still can't say this range to this range, well, you can. But now we approve it. But now you got all this ambiguity there between that management saying what each step means and their experience. Now we're creating imbalance from an end based on somebody's perception of what their scale is. Need that clarity of here's what an A, here's what it takes to be a B, C, at each level. And then it's clear, it's like a slide and go along.
Yes.
So you got these qualifications, this many years experience, and that puts you right here.
And the department and elected officials,
Here, well, Fayette County has a lot of high text.
yeah. And when we first started, there was some questions about that, and they all understood, I'll use the tax commissioner as one. She knew exactly what other counties are offering. So she knew what she can keep her employees at if we went to this scale. That's what we would kind of do. We would give it to the elected officials and department heads and say, okay, you can't compete with Coweta paying $18 an hour, but what can you offer your employees that think they're going to stay? If it's $16.50 coming in, then we would sign all tax assessors or tax commissioners at grade 19. So if there's an opening, human resources know, hey, this position is a grade 19. We'll bring you in door at this unless you get the experience.
So
But right now, it goes through, if there's an open position, they've been paying, I don't know, $14.50, $14. So that's what they've been offering them because that's the starting rate from, I don't know how many years ago.
So in summary, me and I'll shut up. I'm in favor of this and getting it going as soon as possible, but I need some more structure around how do we get from A to
And that'll be,
keep
yeah,
that from happening, because if she's got somebody wanting to go to Fed, we're trying to get them from Fed, and we're saying, well, here's the range, and this is what they pay, we put them in there, or we pay them higher rate than the classification and qualification they are. Could we be doing it? And the answer in my mind, as we stand, is yes. We're going to, what we'll do by not having those barriers that say, here's how you get there, is price ourselves into a staff full of Coweta and Fayette County employees that don't have the skill level any higher than we have today. And we're not going to be able to survive.
and that way it would be with Jared oversight, making sure no one's going up 3 or 4 steps on the pay scale.
I'd like it to be better than him looking at it. I'd like for it to be clear today, and this is what it is. Take that off of him, take it off of the group you represent. The procedure says this. And then there's no liability to the county or to you guys as individuals. It's why Johnny and Susie did or didn't do it. Here's the process, here's the guidelines.
And we can come up with those requirements,
I'll listen to you.
what it takes to get from that step to that step. And that's why I was, once we put them on this scale, don't do anything for a year and let us define those specifically, what you got to do to move
I understand,
from
but
step A to step B.
if we
Because
approve it, all we got is John looks trustworthy and nice, I like him, appreciate it. That's the only confidence I have, and it was this here, and I take it off and do it.
Nobody.
Yeah.
can give her-
no, Jared has to sign off on any increase.
Same thing, it was trustworthy, I think crazy with this, but that's the only confidence we have in that is we trust Jared to not to start approving things left and right. I like to see us develop some of that plan before we just, it doesn't have to be 100%.
I think it was on the last meeting, we had a memo from HR that said the evaluations, the 6 months valuations, and then the elected officials have to do their own standard operating procedures. So they have to determine what constitutes a step increase. County employees will have to come up with their own, saying this is what constitutes an increase, performance evaluations, education, certifications, training. You just can't go in and say,
Can we get that on the document for a meeting to be able to read that and digest it a little better?
yeah, HR has one, and she must have laid it on my desk before the meeting because she was gonna print it out and bring it to me.
Because
I can have it for tomorrow morning.
I don't want to sit here and let fast get in the way of that. I want
Yeah.
to start, do something with the board employees and get moving and get us in the right path. And it's a living document. We can change it whenever, however we want to.
There's a document there, and I can have it tomorrow morning.
But I want structure and discipline to it to where if things get out of whack, it's pretty simple. Valerie, Jared, or you, or Danny, or Jill, or whoever violated what it says in here. And that's.
We can back that up by putting in our policy manual, so we have something to fall back on, that this is the policy of the county.
Then instead of them suing the county, because it looks like Johnny got a big raise from Susie. And Susie has more qualifications than Johnny, right? We can go back and say, oh, here's what we're doing. We got to go back to that manager. and
Everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's from all the back. Sort of back. What's required for specific jobs and at the level of what's needed in the job description. And then that right then the goals and objectives that you got 5, for a job that you meet that criteria. And with that being said, whether it's EMT, the basic versus advanced, it's high, and whatever classification you're doing, that you've got a set of job descriptions, and to me, that should be the first step. And then that's when your pay scale is going to come back in. And then you have the CBA will review every 6 months the employee reviews with your supervisor. If they're meeting their goals and objectives, And then if they're into a performance where they are getting players fines or whatever. Ratings, if it's a rating of 1 to 5, if they're at a 3, usually that's kind of normal, you're doing average work. Or whatever. But if you're performing at a 4 or 5, that means you're exceeding, you're doing more than just your job. You're exceeding to have a level that, yeah, you do deserve a tremendous. With that being said, I think that's the only fair way we want to be in the system. And they're getting some of like the department heads, and they're getting HR as well as Gary, the, whoever's the review team is. You want to reward performance is what you want to do. And then, there again, it's gotta be fair, it's gotta be equitable. That's my thoughts on it. I would rather be slow and steady to make sure that we're doing it right, so that you're not going to create a bigger problem with anyone feeling that for some reason that they may have been, and somehow capitalized or put in a different category or whatever. If they've got the credentials, if they've got the training, expertise, or whatever, something that's in there.
Well, that individual would have a right to come in and ask, unfortunately, they talk about the fact. So the individual does know so-and-so got the pay. An individual would have a right to come in and ask, say, could I not be evaluated for, or help understand me? And then somebody would sit down with them and go over that outline.
But that's why I think it needs to be clear, guidelines, each step, what that is, and then you can clearly explain why not. And you sort of fall back.
But those job duties and all, you go back to the EMT, you basically, if you want that certain criteria in that basic job description. It should be uniform for every EMT across, that's a basic EMT. To bring in and
But basically, like you said, if we go ahead,
They got our copies. Sets them apart from the.
That's what should be the text.
so if we did move forward to initiate this and get it out there, that's when the department heads can start doing their own evaluations and turning them in, and then they come to y'all and it gets looked at and the process gets rolling.
Yes, sir. What I just gave you is what was on the last packet for what the county came up with evaluations. If we can go further than what's listed on here, if the Board of Commissioners want additional items listed in there for the county to follow, I think most elected officials would kind of follow suit with what the county implements.
I think this is good.
There's a beginning step, but there's things that need to be added to it, but it's,
And
And
these
the
descriptions need to be in there.
What too is how would you address code? And I know that the county probably has done possibility adjustments.
it's a merit, it's a 2.5 merit at the beginning of the year. This, to my understanding, when Bill explained to me, is there's, for the past 10 years, the Board of Commissioners always approved up to a 2.5% merit increase. There's never been a COLA. A COLA doesn't require an evaluation. It's just a cost of living adjustment across the board.
Basically, that's what we're doing with COVID, because you're not getting evaluation of what's happening every January 1st, right?
You're getting evaluation in December to get your merit raise at 2.5%.
It is happening.
Correct.
But it's up to.
Up 2.5%.
It's not part of that.
Correct.
When will the employees see benefits of this start? If we initiated it.
Well, that's on the healthcare. That's July would be the healthcare. This one, if we went to it, we would probably need the month to probably finish out and get all the employees done. So it'll probably be the first check in June.
Says October 1st.
First check in June.
That's what I'm saying.
It would take us about a month.
Start for values.
Yes, sir.
July, it's
No.
not December.
It'll be as soon as evaluations are done, probably 4 to 6 weeks, no more than, 2 more pay periods. This will go into effect once we talk with all the department heads and elected officials.
We can start doing evaluations early.
Yeah,
before we
once the
put it in
board,
place, because once it goes in, well, I mean, we have 140, 144 employees.
Evaluations and it gets.
I know, so every hundred, all of them, what's my evaluation?
They have to get to them.
Department heads gonna be doing no work that they need to do because they're gonna get all these evaluations.
as soon as we have something in place, we'll call a meeting and get a rep from each department, elected officials, and say, hey, this is what we're going to. You know, hey, your employees, it's public record, it's known, it's out there now. Just explain to them it's gonna be, 4 to 6 weeks, 2 to 3 paychecks, so we can get everybody on scale. And then they'll start seeing it implemented.
This says here, if met, step increases will go into effect on October 1st.
That's after the initial, put them on the scale.
So there's no pay increase then until October 1st.
There could be exceptions. Now, someone got a certification or something, they could qualify for a step increase. Just if it was
But
a,
in general, this wouldn't go into affecting people's paychecks until October 1st.
after,
the reviews.
no, after the initial placing on the pay scale.
Right, yeah.
Then it'd be next year, it'd be October 1st of 2025. The
But
budget.
not before they get a raise.
No,
They get whatever's on here.
yeah, whatever we come up with initially put on there, they would get within the next 4 to 6 weeks whenever we're done with everything. It would be, I would say maybe the second paycheck in June, because we just got our first check in May this Thursday. So it'd be at least 2, hopefully no more than 3.
Until evaluations in December, unless somebody got certification.
Yes, they would get a 2.5% merit if the board chose to do that continuously for the year. And staff recommends we keep the 2.5% merit because this is not automatic. And we can, if the board wishes, we can change that to a COLA and not require an evaluation and use that evaluation for the step.
Not gonna plus. Not gonna bear it. It happens for that for things, it will be, very.
Yes. And the most someone would get in a year is 5.5%. But if they wouldn't see the 3% until October, they would get 2.5% in January.
Unless they obtain.
Unless they take certification, unless you got that special circumstances.
If it's not scale.
Yes, ma'am.
So.
So we're rewarding you for going to get your certification and moving up to the next step. Instead of you waiting till, say if I got my certification being motor grader in April, I'm not expecting to wait till October to get my increase. I would want it, as soon as I got my certification.
In October, get a review and adjust it again based on the review.
Yes.
So I'm gonna say, let's wrap this thing up. We got 9 o'clock meeting in the morning.
And I'll kind of add to that document I just gave you some more outlines, the job descriptions, put that data in there, and then, we'll present it back to the board in the morning for consideration of approval.
Mr. Fowler, you got anything else you want to add to that for the day? Well, anything else?
So,
No. Y'all have anything else you want to say?
I said I was gonna shut up a long time ago.
I get a motion to adjourn. I got a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? We now adjourn.